Running Google Ads can be an absolute game changer for your business. But if you don't pay attention to certain settings and details, it can lead to wasting your time and money very quickly. So in today's video, I'll be labeling the top 5 most common mistakes people make when running Google Ads and how to avoid them. And if you stick around until the end, I'll be sharing a bonus mistake which could potentially save you thousands of dollars if you're currently running video ads. Hey everyone, it's Axel here, and we're just gonna get right into it. So the first mistake that people make when running Google Ads is not having conversion tracking set up correctly. So conversion tracking is what measures the results coming into your ads. So this can be either a purchase, a lead, a form fill, a click in some cases, or in brand recognition, it can also just be a view. However, you wanna make sure that whatever it is, the result you're trying to get, that you're tracking it correctly, because this is what lets you see in the ads what's working and what's not working. So if you wanna figure out what keywords are working or which ads are working or which location targeting is working the best, conversion tracking is the way to do that. And that's what's going to enable you to optimize in a data-driven way, so then you can make meaningful changes to your campaign. So what I mean by that is you can essentially put more money into what works, put less money into what doesn't work, and therefore your cost per acquisition or result should go down over time and your campaigns should become more efficient. So there's 3 real things you should be looking out for. The first one being, when you're in your conversion dashboard, be on the lookout for things like this. If it says inactive or no recent conversions, there could be something wrong with your conversion tracking and you want to get that fixed. The second thing you want to look out for is if you're in your dashboard and you see a big 0 beside your conversions, that could mean that you're not necessarily getting 0 conversions, but that your conversion tracking is also not set up correctly. And so there could be an issue there as well. And then the third common case I see is sometimes you'll go into your dashboard and you'll see that you got, for example, 200 clicks and 200 conversions. So your clicks equals your conversions. That also means that your event snippet is probably set up incorrectly and it's something you want to fix. So if you have either of those 3 cases, whether you see an inactive tag, 0 conversions, or clicks equals conversions, you might want to troubleshoot your conversion tracking and get that sorted out. If you don't know how to do that, I'll put the link below in a conversion tracking tutorial I put out 2 weeks ago, so feel free to watch that. It'll give you a full A to Z tutorial on how to set that up yourself correctly. So that's it for the number 1 mistake. That's conversion tracking. Make sure it works before you ever spend money on Google Ads. The second common mistake I see is not having your auto recommendations turned off. Now, this is super important. If you're in your Google Ads account, you can click on the recommendations tab here and Google will give you a list of different recommendations, as they call them. This is a very dangerous area to be in Google Ads, and personally, if I were you, I would avoid using this area entirely, since most of these recommendations are not necessarily good for your ad account. So you have to be very careful and you need to know what you're doing if you're going to go into here, as not all of these recommendations can actually be beneficial. For example, right here, I can see that the first recommendation from Google is to essentially adjust the budgets in this account and spend more money. Google does make the majority of its revenue from their ads, so it's not really a surprise that they're trying to push their Google Ads users to spend more. That way Google makes more revenue. That's essentially just like a sneaky way for them to essentially get you to do that. It's by just labeling it as a recommendation. Another example of another recommendation that's not very good is using the display expansion. That's actually one of the future mistakes I'll be labeling, so I'll talk about why that's not useful. Same with tCPA, and so on and so on. There are a couple good ones in here, but you really have to know which ones they are. So overall, it's usually best that you stay away from this area. At the top, you'll also notice that it gives you an optimization score, and it tends to do this. That way you start applying these recommendations. You want to ignore this number right here as a percentage score, and that's because it's not a very meaningful number, and here's why. If I go onto my adjust my budgets recommendation right here, it tells me that if I apply this and I adjust my budget by raising it, then I'll get a bump in my optimization score of plus 4.4% to this score to make it around 72 or 73%. So essentially Google's telling me if I up my budget, my optimization score will increase, which should be a good thing, right? Here's why that doesn't matter though. Let's say I go here and just dismiss the recommendation. So essentially I'm telling Google, I don't want to do this. Notice how my optimization score went up anyway. Whether I dismissed the recommendation or applied it, the optimization score went up, and it would have remained the same had I just done nothing, which essentially means that this number is meaningless and that you can just not pay attention to it. That's what I have to say about the recommendations. Now, the one setting you don't want to have is this. Go and click on your auto apply right here, and you want to make sure that you see a 0 out of 8 selected right there and a 0 out of 14 selected, and then double check and make sure that none of these boxes are ticked. You don't want any of these boxes ticked, because if you do have these boxes ticked, what happens is if I go back to my recommendations tab, is that these recommendations will start to auto apply. And like I said, a lot of these recommendations are very hurtful for your ad account and you don't want them to get auto applied. So make sure that you turn all of that stuff off. That way you have full control of what's going on in your ads. On to the third mistake. So the third mistake I'm going to label here is not turning off your display and search partner networks. To find this, make sure you select a campaign in your account. Let's say I choose this one. Go into your settings. Under networks, you're gonna click on this drop down right here, and you're gonna wanna make sure that neither of these boxes are ticked. So the search network and the display network. What these are when running a search campaign is extra networks where your ads can be shown to essentially increase the amount of impressions you're getting and then hopefully clicks and conversions. The thing is though, is that neither of these ever convert, from my experience, as efficiently as the regular Google search. So what you wanna do is disable both of them, especially the display network. Never once have I seen the display network returning any meaningful result in any of the campaigns I've ever managed. So I would 100% always remove that from any campaign you're running. The search network can sometimes provide a meaningful result, but in most cases, especially if you're running lead generation campaigns, they often result in a higher cost per lead and a poor lead quality as well. So usually I just remove them off the bat and don't even bother trying it. However, you can test this stuff and see if it works. If it works well for you, great. If it doesn't, here's how to check if it's working or not. Let's say you leave this box turned on and you want to see if your search network is actually performing well or not. What you want to do is go back to your campaigns tab right here, segment out this column, and then click on network. And what's going to happen is that right now it's disabled on my account, but below Google search, you'll have an extra row that says search partners. And then from there, it'll give you segmented information, things like clicks, impressions, cost per conversion for both the Google search and the search partners. If you clearly see that the search partners are underperforming, then go ahead and just disable it. But usually nowadays, what I like to do, specifically with the display expansion, is just to disable both for my campaigns. So if you're liking this video so far, make sure you give the video a like and a subscribe as well. That way you stay updated for all future videos to come. So the fourth mistake I see people commonly making is using tCPA too early in their campaigns. tCPA is a specific advanced bidding strategy. A lot of campaigns perform under a maximizing conversion strategy. So that's essentially you telling Google Ads, for this campaign specifically, the goal is to maximize the amount of conversions that I'm getting. When you add a tCPA to that, you're essentially labeling Google the target cost per acquisition is what it stands for. So you're essentially telling Google, not only do I want you to maximize the amount of results I'm getting, but I want you to get each result under this specific dollar amount. Now, in theory, this sounds great because it makes you believe that you can run a profitable ad right from the get-go. But the thing is that tCPA is super reliant on conversion data to start with. And the problem I often see is people will enable a tCPA right off the bat on the Google Ads campaign before the Google Ads campaign can even learn in any sort of way and before you've done any optimizations to it. And what will happen is they will not be able to hit that target. And what happens when the target is not hit is that Google will just entirely stop spending on your campaign and you'll be left with 0 leads. So it's a very data reliant bidding strategy in order for it to work correctly. So if you want to use it, usually the correct way to use it is you want to set up your campaign under maximizing conversions. Let that campaign run for, let's say, a month or two until you've had at least a few hundred conversions, in my opinion. That way you can clearly label what your average cost per conversion is. And only once you are consistently starting to hit that cost per conversion, then you can maybe try fiddling around with the tCPA and set one in place. To find where this is, you essentially go into your campaign settings right here, and it's under bidding. So right now I'm under a maximize conversion setting. So if I wanted to set up a tCPA, what I would do is I would change my bid strategy, make sure that this box is ticked, and let's say set a target CPA of $5 or whatever my current cost per acquisition is. However, the main mistake people make is setting one of these too early. So if you're just starting out with a Google Ads campaign, you want to make sure that this box is left unticked for at least a couple weeks or so. That way your campaigns will be able to run uninterrupted without having the cost fall to 0 unexpectedly because you set a tCPA too early in your campaign. So the final mistake I'll be talking about that people commonly make using Google Ads is not selecting the correct location targeting settings. If you go into your campaign and then you select locations, and under this, you'll see a tab that labels it with location options, and it gives you 2 options. You have something called presence or interest and presence. So in this example, I'm targeting a place called Whistler in Canada, and it is currently on a presence or interest targeting. What presence or interest means is you're targeting people who are either currently living in Whistler in this case, or they have shown interest in going to Whistler someday. If you were to select presence only, that means you're only targeting the people who are currently in that location. Now, it really matters which one you select here depending on which business model you're using, because for example, if you're running a service-based business, let's say you're a plumber or a handyman or a real estate agent or something of the sort, and you are providing services that are mostly one-to-one with people, chances are that you're probably operating only in your current location or city. And whatever it is you're doing in order to acquire leads online, you probably want those leads to come locally from your area. That way you're only servicing people who are in your area. So that's a case where you would want to make sure that you are on presence only. However, there are other business models where using presence or interest could be beneficial. This guy right here is a property manager working in Whistler, and a lot of his clientele comes not only from Whistler, but from people traveling to Whistler. So people who are interested in Whistler. For that reason alone, it makes sense for me to target presence or interest. Let's say as another example, you run a hotel as a business. Chances are that the majority of your clients do not come from your local town or city, but that they're coming from abroad and from somewhere else. So in a case like that as well, you would maybe want to target a presence or interest location targeting specifically for your area. That way you are targeting people who are currently in your area and have shown interest to your area. So that's the difference between presence and interest, or presence only. Make sure that your campaigns are set up with the correct one depending on what it is you do online and what you're advertising. As promised, here's a bonus mistake that people commonly make and how to avoid it. So this one's gonna have to do with video campaigns or YouTube ads. So when you run a search campaign, your ads are shown on 3 different devices. You have mobile phones, tablets, and computers. When you run ads as a video ad or a YouTube ad, there is a 4th device, and those are TV screens. Now for 99% of you, especially if you're running lead generation campaigns, you're gonna wanna turn these off. And that's because getting a direct result out of a TV screen is way less efficient and way harder to do than someone out of their mobile phone. So think about it. Like if you're running a lead generation campaign and someone sees your ad on their TV screen, it's a lot harder for them to click on your ad and then fill out the form on your landing page using the little remote they have on their TV than it is to do it on their mobile phone. And a lot of the time as well is people on TVs are often just distracted in what they're watching, and they're not in the mindset to fill out a form in the first place. I've seen this mistake being done over and over again, and I've seen so many clients burning thousands of dollars on these TV screens in their lead generation campaigns, and I've never seen a single result out of them. So make sure you turn them off. There is a 1% case where you can enable these, and that's for brand awareness. So huge brands like Nike, for example, or fast food chains or whatever it is, they might just have a quick ad that's just doing some brand awareness, and they're not necessarily looking for the viewer to take direct action. It's just to get some views on their company, because they're not trying to get a direct result. They're just trying to get someone to view what their brand is. But for most of the cases, so 99% of your cases, especially if you're doing lead gen or you're doing e-commerce or something of the sort, I highly recommend you turn the TV screens off. And here's how to do it. If you're currently running a video campaign, so here I have a video campaign example, what you want to do is you want to select insights and reports and click on where and when my ads were shown, and go on devices and specifically click on your video campaign. Now you'll see that you have computers, mobile phones, tablets, and TV screens. What you're going to want to do is bid adjust this and make it so that it's decreased to 100%, and then click save. And what that's going to do is it's going to entirely disable your ads from being shown on TV screens. I'll now show you how to disable these right from the start if you're about to build a YouTube ads campaign from scratch. Let's say you're about to build a campaign from scratch. You would probably go here, then you would click on plus and click on plus new campaign. I'm just going to skip through this stuff super quickly because it doesn't really matter to what I'm talking about here, but this would be a video campaign, and you would click on continue, and this usually comes on the second page. So right here in the devices section, what you want to do is you want to click on this, and instead of selecting the default, which is show on all eligible devices, you want to set a specific targeting for devices and make sure that this box is left unticked. If you do this right from the start of your campaign, your ads will not show on TV screens, and you'll save your money, because that money will otherwise be spent on computers, mobile phones, and tablets, which are honestly devices that will convert at a much more efficient rate for you. So hopefully this video has fixed some issues you've had in your Google ads and makes your campaigns perform better in the long run for you. Before you go, if you'd like me to manage your ads for you, you can feel free to click the link in the description below to book a call with me. And if you have any questions or feel like I missed out a crucial mistake that people often make that I did not mention, be sure to drop that in the comments below as well. Other than that, I'll see you on the next one.